Hi guys, so today we will discuss interviews. I know yesterday we were discussing rejection. I was going to follow up on rejection because it's can be lengthy, the conversation, because there's different parts of being rejected, but I wanted to just discuss interviewing because I think it would be um, knowledgeable for you guys to understand from a recruiter's perspective uh, and experience. So, uh, just want to let you guys know that when you do interview, which will be always a verbal interview over the phone with the recruiter, as the first base of contact, make sure that you are sitting down. Why am I saying that? It's because if you're standing up and you're moving around, um, it the conversation will not sound as pleasing as if you're sitting down like I am right now. um, your voice and it will sound kind of anxious, uh, and you don't want the recruiter to pick you up as an anxious person. But nevertheless, sometimes the recruiter calling you is anxious, right? So in that instance, you want to just be confident and sound and make sure you come across during the verbal interview, the phone interview, um, as pleasant and confident and clear and concise. I used to walk around and I used to think that that was the best decision to just kind of walk around, right? But honestly, I was walking around because it would make me think as to, when I was asked a question uh, from the recruiter as to how I would respond, and it would keep my brain from being active, right? And so that's why I thought that me being able to walk around in my room or wherever you're at will be helpful. But I've read a lot on this as well, and I've already seen this happen when I've spoken to um, thousands and thousands of candidates. And what happens is you can tell when someone is walking around, they're very impatient, they're very, when you're asking them a question, you're not listening to your question. They're kind of like trying to get to the next step, trying to move forward and trying to move fast. In actuality, all you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. Why? Because your expression over the phone, your verbal, nonverbal cues, and verbal cues on the phone is coming across. Okay. So when I say nonverbal, I mean that they can hear your background. They can hear that you're walking around and prancing and, nonstop being active, which you should not be doing that because you're getting the recruiter or whoever for that fact is over the phone on that call agitated. And the last thing you want is the recruiter to feel like you're not serious about the role. Okay. You don't want to seem like you're being a kid and you're acting like a kid. This is a professional call. This is a interview, whether it's on the phone and they can't see you, but they can hear you. And trust me, I've heard many people, many times, where they're not even in a secure area. They're not even in a room where they told their family members or their friends, hey, I'm going to be in an interview. I will be in this room. Please do not bother me. If you, for some reason, can't find that quiet room where you can just have a conversation where you're not distracted by others, Another thing, you're going to get the recruiter distracted because if they're hearing noise in the background, there's always people talking in the background, having full blown conversations with each other. That should not be happening at all. That shouldn't be happening. You should be letting your friends and family know, hey, I'm going to have an interview. Please, I need you guys to stay quiet within this time frame. Whether you guys have to leave or be in another side of the room, whatever the case is. But that has to happen. You have to be in a quiet area, quiet room, and it's best for you to be sitting like I'm sitting now, talking to you. I'm not moving, I'm not being distracted, I'm focusing on what I'm doing, on my conversation, because that way you are more in control, believe it or not, in the conversation, in the interview. You will have more successful interview. I once had to have an interview in my vehicle, and this was a video, a video, virtual interview, and I had to figure out a way to set it up in my car because I was, in actuality, the only way that I was going to be able to speak. Don't ask me why at that time. I was just doing something with my daughter. I think we were taking her to the dentist, and I pretty much said, hey, while they're out in the office, I need to be in this interview, and so you don't want anyone walking in as you're talking, even though you're in the car or in your vehicle. You still need to be focused. You can't have any distractions. Another thing that that I find quite interesting when I'm talking to candidates, I hear them talk eating. Please don't do that. That is a no. You don't want to sound like you're eating. You're not chewing any gum. Don't do anything that, again, is going to make you feel like you're distracted. Okay, and plus, it's just not right. If you're eating, I've had virtual interviews with people while they're eating as well. Now, don't get me wrong. If you set up an interview, because I've set up interviews before, and within the only time we could meet was during their lunchtime, right? Now that's understandable, and I even tell them, hey, eat, right? Because as long as it's being stated and that's their situation, and they're even allowing me to interview them while they're and they're on their break, hey, by all means eat, but just as long as they can speak to me. But again, you don't want to eat while you're not on your lunch break, and you're not letting the recruiter know, hey, I unfortunately have to eat while I'm talking to you. This is my only lunch break. Some people are not allowed to eat right? So while they're working, or the only lunch break they get is during their lunch break. So I 100% understand that, because I've gone through all of that myself. So I am completely okay with that. But you don't want to not let the recruiter know, or the hiring manager, whoever you're talking to, hey, I will be eating. I'm speaking to you during my lunch break. Is that okay? Even if you, at the last minute, they pick up the phone or the virtual call and you happen to eat, right? And you have your food, you want to just mention to them, hey, I am sorry, I'm eating. This is the only time I can eat. And that's understandable. But what you don't want to do is make it seem like you're being very unprofessional. You haven't mentioned it to anybody. Again, that's just going to bring you across as someone that is very unprofessional, and you will be doing these kind of things, behaviorals around when if they hire you, you will be doing that while you're talking to somebody, or talking to a leadership person, you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, and you're, just, um, you know, not being kind of like receptive of others, of knowing of their time, because some people don't like that, right? Well, most people don't. But anyway, so that's part of it. And when you are speaking to someone, and they're asking you questions, please make sure that you have your research completed. When I say research, I mean take a few minutes, 15 tops, just a few minutes to research the company. If you're really, really highly interested in that company and you want them to hire you, if they ask you, what do you know about us? Um, why would you like to work here? That's another great way to show them, well, based on my research on your company, X, Y, and Z is the reason why I would like to work with you guys. I also um, see that you guys do certain events, and I like how you guys are part of the community, blah, blah, blah. You get what I'm saying? So you need to do some type of research, even if you don't know uh, much about the company. Even when you research, I've researched companies, because like I said, I've worked for big organizations, and when I researched them, I'm like, what is it that I couldn't understand what exactly it meant, what they were doing, and it's okay to not understand. I've had to say, hey, yes, this is what I got in from doing my research on your company. Help me understand this, and then get a clarification. Okay, so because if you're going to blurt that you think you know something and you're going to be questioned and asked, you don't want that, because you're going to be seen as someone that is lying to them, and you're not clearly communicating the truth. Okay, the last thing you want to do is be hired, um, or if you're going to want to get hired with the company, I suggest you get all your ducks in a row, and it's as simple as a little research. Um, and even if you don't understand, like I had that happen to myself several times, it's okay. Sometimes we don't understand certain jargon, certain terminology from companies. That's completely fine, but you don't want to make it seem as if you weren't proactive, right? You didn't try to dive deep, because when they see that, they will, um, notate that. They will put that down. I mean, at least I've done that before, where you know, um, I have to take notes as to, you know, what is really going on with the candidate as far as their behaviors. Again, behaviors is key to being successful in an interview, because if you can get that situated with coordinating yourself whenever an interview is about to happen, it's a win-win for you. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't want that, right? But so once you have the phone interview, the next step should be a virtual interview. That's normally what everyone is doing now. Is the second interview will be a virtual interview. Then the third interview might be coming on site to meet the hiring managers, along with probably an HR person, right? The Now, it just really depends on what job you have. You might have a fourth. Like I've had to have fourth interviews, fifth interviews, six. I've even had up to 6 interviews. Um, it's just the way some companies do their hiring process. Not every company does the same hiring process. Every company does their hiring process as to how they feel fit for them, right? Not what is best for the candidate. It's what is best for the company. So again, don't take it personal. It's really just the way things are in this talent acquisition HR world, it's not to be taken, as something against you. So let's go back to your interview. Once you go through the first phase of the phone interview, then the second phase will be the virtual interview. You want to make sure that you are not in the background. There's nothing like, for example, my background. This is my background, but I can also choose a different background, right? I can add a virtual background, right? Which will be very successful for you. But in most instances, I've seen virtual backgrounds kind of glitch. So you want to find a background like mine, for instance. It's not the perfect background, but hey, it's clean, clear, and it's a aesthetic, decent picture, right? There's no a million pictures or things that will put you out of the running, right? Because you have things in your personal life that you can have an F sign on, right? I mean, you can have whatever, but at the end of the day, if I've seen that, to be honest with you. I've had a lot of virtual interviews while people have been on their bed, while people have been, their bed is, not made, So again, those are all of the things that distract us, right? Because if I'm talking to someone, I'm not really focusing on them. I'm focusing on their messy room, right? Again, you want to just be in a clear, clean background as much as possible. So you're having the virtual interview and you're discussing with your the recruiter, hire managers. You want to make sure that you are clear and concise and when you're communicating. And please, if you do not know an answer to a question, don't be afraid to say, hey, could you repeat that question? Could you please elaborate on that for me? This is what I am thinking, but is this what you're meaning? Because every person that I've communicated with, whether it's recruiters, whether it's candidates, and I've interviewed thousands of candidates, and I've worked for multiple companies and different industries. Every hiring manager, every person you speak to speaks differently. Not everyone communicates the same. So that doesn't mean that you're not the person that is not receiving the feedback correctly, but you might not necessarily be getting a clear question from the person that is interviewing you. And that's understandable. Don't feel like, oh, I must be dumb if I can't hear them or understand them. Because again, there's nothing wrong with you. But if you're sitting there and you're just letting them think that, hey, he didn't know the answer to this question, I don't like that. Because you could have just said, hey, this is what I'm understanding to be the question, and is this my answer? Could be this. Would this be aligning to your question? Or can you rephrase it, please? It is okay. You can interview. Sometimes the interviewer, I see this a lot, where you can interview the interviewer. This is exactly what I do. Because I love to interview. Like I told you from my first video, I'm kind of like an interrogator. I've always been an interrogator my whole life. I should have been a detective probably. But I love, even when someone is interviewing, I love to put it back on them, and not in any shape or form attackful, in any shape or form despiteful. You want to be very professional about it. You want to be very, kind of to get a better result in the interview that you're having. If something is not being clear, you want to just, hey, so why? So I see that you're needing this in a candidate for this job role, but you mentioned that you need this. So could you let me understand what this other skill you're looking for that I might not possess? Is there anything that you see that I can do in order for me uh, to immediately be able to jump um, on this job role if I so happen to get it, and then they will see that, because you don't want to make it seem like, hey, this is not the candidate. Again, it's sometimes their perception of what they're asking. The questioning might be wrong, and you might have the skill that could be a transferable skill, right? Keyword is very there. Transferable skills are everywhere, so you need to use your transferable skills. I've used that a number of times. I've had many transferable skills that could adapt to what the skills is that they're looking for, right? Or, hey, I am a I can adapt to any new industry. I can adapt to this skill. I can learn. So again, you want to always be making yourself look like the best fit for this role. Okay? Because at the end of the day, the candidate wants the candidate that the company is looking for is someone who is going to be a chameleon. And that's what most of these recruiters, my colleagues, my hiring managers, or any hiring manager that's gonna you're gonna speak to, this is what they want to know, this is what they want to see, this is what they want to hear. It's sometimes not necessarily a lot of the ways what you're saying. It's about how you're letting them know that you're resilient and you can do it. Give them if you're giving the opportunity, you will make sure to prove yourself. Okay, so that is part of this discussion I wanted to have as far as interviewing. Again, this is not everything. This is just basics of interviewing. So I will definitely touch up on a different topic tomorrow. So thank you guys. Have a good one. Bye.